Welcome to the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast, where we interview the biggest and most successful real estate entrepreneurs, investors, and capital raisers in the world to provide you with the tool sets, the mindsets, and the skill sets to help you conquer yourself, your life, your marriage, and use real estate as your wealth creation vehicle so that you can live a more successful, happy, and fulfilled life of growth and contribution. If what you're after is having it all, if what you desire is becoming the best version you can be across all areas, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, sentimentally, and financially, you've come to the right place. We will bring to you the best of the best real estate entrepreneurs who will give you the insights, knowledge, experience, and skills so that you can go out and crush it financially and across all areas of your life. Grab pencil and paper, sit back, enjoy, and you are welcome to the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast. Hello, Modern Kings and Queens. Welcome to another episode of the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast, where we interview some of the best real estate investors out there, capital raisers, operators in the world to provide you with the tool sets, the insights, the knowledge, and the skills for you to conquer yourself, your life, your marriage, and use real estate as your wealth creation vehicle so that you can live a more successful, happy, and fulfilled life of growth and contribution. Super excited today because I get to talk to, connect with, and learn from Tim Stone. He's a young 22-year-old real estate investor, has been in real estate for 3 years since he was 19, partnered with some amazing people that I personally know and has been doing deals. His first deal was actually 48 units. So super excited to have you, Tim. You're also young as well. It's going to be, I think, very exciting and empowering to talk to you, man, and do this interview. So thank you very much for being here, and you're welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you, Alex.
So, man, the first thing that I do with my guest is I actually ask them to walk us through their real estate investing journey in 75 seconds or less.
75 seconds or less. All right, I'll try. We'll go right here. So I like many people, was given a copy of Rich Dad Poor Dad. It just so happened I was pretty young when I started reading that, and really understood the power of buying assets and having passive income instead of just trading your time for dollars. So I was always trying to figure out how to get into real estate. I remember, looking at deals on Zillow, trying to figure out underwriting, using softwares to help me analyze deals back when I was 16 and 15. And never got a deal at that point. But as soon as I went to college, my whole goal was to figure out how to get into real estate. I was sitting down with my academic advisor, and I was like, who do I need to meet in Chattanooga, Tennessee, if I want to do real estate? And she told me a couple people. One of them, his name was J.D. Frost, who you'll find out later is now my business partner on the real estate. And also, they had just started a real estate club that semester at UT Chattanooga. So I got involved in the real estate club, started meeting a ton of investors, really learning, and kind of through that, a lot of those people became my mentors, whether they knew it or not, because they were really revealing how it worked. And they were someone that I built a relationship with, and I knew I could rely on if I needed to ask them questions or advice or whatever it was. So I was just educating myself, listening to podcasts, reading books, going to, all these networking events, and just building my network of investors and, understanding what was possible, and then having the right conversation with the right people at the right time. I was talking to JD one night during COVID, and it was about a year after I'd met him, and I was like, hey, do you know of anybody that has any real estate opportunities you could connect me with?
Hello, Modern Kings and Queens. At my company, Millionaire Network Automation, we believe in the power of networking. We believe that in real estate, your net worth is your network. This is why we help real estate investors raise capital by connecting them with their ideal investors and helping them build a massive network of their ideal investors in less than 30 days and with only 4 hours of work per week. If you're interested in this, click the link below in the description of this podcast to learn how you can propel your growth with a reliable system that will consistently help you connect with your ideal investors, build trust, add value, get your investors to promote you and put you in front of more of their investor friends, and raise more capital faster and in a much more effortless way so that you can achieve your financial freedom and still have the time and the energy to pour into every single other area of your life. So go watch the training, and you're going to have the opportunity to book a call to talk about how you can get this 100% done for you system implemented in the next 5 days. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you later, and enjoy the rest of this episode. Bye-bye.
And, he's an accountant, and I figured he would just connect me with someone he knew, but he called me and he's like, man, I think I know exactly what you want to do. We're going to start a company and we're going to buy real estate. And then about 6 months later, as you said, our first deal, 48 units, we bought it. I was the property manager. That was my piece. That's what I brought to the table, and I moved into the deal and kind of went through it there. And we can talk about that more, but that definitely was more than 75 seconds, but that's how it
Yeah.
started.
No worries, man. I enjoyed it. So, you started really young, man. That's super exciting.
Mm.
And then I really liked how you said you wanted, to go into real estate because you didn't want to trade your time for dollars. I was recently thinking about this, man, how it's so awful to trade time for dollars, right? Like it's literally
Mm.
the worst thing in the world, man. Like if you
Unless
really
you
think
traded
about it,
for a
man.
lot of dollars.
Yeah, for sure, right? But if you
Yeah.
really think about it, everyone's doing that, man, and then they're just not getting out of it. So the way out of it, well, one of the ways out of it is real estate. But yeah, I was actually just thinking about that, like trading time for dollars, and how every single person in the world does that. And like if you don't work on getting out of it, you're going to die in it, right? So I was thinking
Mhm.
about that pretty deeply the other day. So that's why I wanted to bring that up. But you went to college, man?
Yeah, I went to college, not because I wanted to, but kind of
Uh-huh.
because that's what you do after high school. So I went to
Yeah.
college. I got a really good scholarship, and I was part of a scholarship program, which I'm super thankful for. That was a 4-year program. We all lived in the same building. They handpicked our professors, and actually, we would either go tour a business once a week, or someone would come speak to us. So one
Yeah.
of the first people that came to speak to us was JD. And
Mm.
so the program director had kind of given me a heads up that I needed to meet him. So I met him at the door when he got there, shook his hand. I was like the only guy asking questions during his presentation, just to make sure he knew who I was, and then
Mm-hmm.
that I was paying attention, that I stood out. And he wasn't
Yeah,
the
for
only
sure.
person that I did this with. I was building relationships and connections with a lot of business owners and a lot of other entrepreneurs and real estate investors. Just putting myself in a position to find success whenever the time was right, whenever I was fully prepared. So yeah, that's how it happened. Went to college, met JD. A year into college, we started our business, started buying properties, and then 2 years into college, I dropped out.
Hmm. Bert, that's crazy, man. We have a really similar story. Apart from the fact that I'm married and I have a kid, I have one
Mm,
kid. I'm also 22, and I also went to
okay.
college just because I got the Obama scholarship. It's like a full ride, pays for everything, pays for a place to stay, eat, sleep, everything, right? Like they even give
Yeah.
you money for like clothes and stuff like that. So I went to college as well, man, for 2 years, and then dropped out to start my business. And it was like an incredible blessing because for those 2 years, I didn't have to worry about real bills or rent or anything, right? Because everything was paid for.
Mm.
And then I dropped out and started my business. But yeah, it's cool that you had a real estate club in your at your college.
We did. It started my freshman year. So I went to the
Mm.
very first meeting and immediately got involved. A good friend of mine, his name's Nick Galbraith. He started the real estate club, he and some of his friends. And then he was the president of the club. You know, got connected with him. I ended up joining the board. I don't remember what my role was, but I was on one of the first board members of the club, and really was just soaking it in, meeting all the other investors. We would have investors come speak to us at least once a month. They would come in, do a presentation, and we'd do networking, or we would just do networking. We'd have 15, 20 investors, anyone we could get a hold of, show up to the university and just, shake hands and tell stories.
That's super awesome, man. So I always talk about this concept of how you're literally one connection away from changing the entire
Mm,
trajectory of your life. One person, just one connection away from making a deal, raising money or whatever. And that clearly happened for you, right? Like you met JD, and then a year later he became your partner. So how and why did that happen, man? Right? Like was it just luck or like how? Why did that happen? Because a lot of people are looking for that one connection, and they feel like as if it's going to never come, right? So,
mm.
what advice would you have for those kinds of people? And then tell me a little bit about how and why that happened.
Yeah, good question. I would definitely say that luck is involved, but you can't prepare to be lucky, and luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So I was, like I said, meeting a ton of people, building a ton of relationships, educating myself, reading books, watching YouTube videos about underwriting and doing deals, listening to podcasts, and I was just preparing myself for when the right opportunity came. And it just happened, I was having a conversation with someone that wanted to get into real estate, but had more money and connections than he had time. And I had all the time in the world, but I didn't have money or connections. And
Cool.
since he already knew who I was, we'd already spoken before. He kind of knew what my mindset was. He saw me as the right fit for what he needed. I was young guy, willing to do what it takes, but I had plenty of time because I was 19, like didn't have anything else going on, didn't have kids or family to take care of, and I was able to take that risk of just going all in on this opportunity that wasn't really making any money yet until we made it make money.
Nice. So he had the money, the connections, but no time, right? Because he's running like a tax company and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
then you had all the time in the world. So you brought to the table the managing, the property management side, right?
Right.
Did you just figure it out along the way, or did you have any previous property management experience, man?
I didn't really have any experience other than just conversation I had with people. So when we got this deal under contract and we knew it was going to happen, we knew what the plan was. I was going to be property manager. I was trying to learn as much about property management as I could until the day we closed. I went to the title office, picked up a bucket of keys, and now I was in charge. So I moved into one of the units, had to kind of assess the property. It had 13 vacancies. We went through and figured out which ones were going to be the quickest renovations, got those
Mm-hmm.
handled. A lot of learning experiences came from those renovations because I'd never done a renovation before either. So we got all those renovations done. Those were the first vacancies we filled, obviously. So I was learning how to market the properties, how to screen tenants, how to do a lease and everything, and having good connections that could, like I mentioned, that could be your mentors was huge because I was able to borrow a really solid lease agreement from another investor that had been through it before, was very
Yeah, for sure.
seasoned. And getting advice from them was huge because I wouldn't have known where to start without having these people tell me how to start. And
Yeah.
then just going through it, it was pretty under rented, so we started slowly increasing the rent. Um, and naturally, a few people start to move out, so we'd fill those vacancies, and then just going through that process. And we actually sold that deal after 14 months. Um, Happened to be during one of the best real estate markets of my lifetime, which was definitely lucky for sure. But it was a great learning experience to do that deal.
So with you led the renovations, you weren't the one like with the hammer and the nails and all of that, right? Like, did you
For
hire someone
for
else?
for a while I was like
You were?
yeah,
Okay.
me and I would get friends together, and then one of our other business partners has a son my age, Max. Couldn't have done it without Max. He was a lot more handy than I was. And we were doing a lot of the renovation projects ourselves. I was in there most days of the week painting, ripping out carpets, renting dumpsters, moving them around to the different apartments for a while, and then figured out really good flooring contractors, figured out what we were going to do with the painting contractors and cabinets and appliances, and eventually kind of built that system so I could call someone instead of having to go down there and actually do it myself.
Hmm.
But at first, for a while, and this is a funny story I've told on a few podcasts, I would go buy the paint we needed 1 gallon at a time. And I would go to the hardware store and I'd buy like 8 1-gallon buckets of paint, and they'd mix them up, put the color in, shake them, and I would just fill the back of my car with 1 gallon buckets at a time. I didn't know you could buy a 5 gallon bucket. So learned a lot of those funny things the hard way. But
Yeah, yeah.
luckily, like I said, it was an amazing deal. So it was a perfect opportunity for a learning experience.
So man, I wanna dive a little bit deeper into that first deal because a lot of people are stuck there, right? Like in their first deal, and like in my opinion, the most important one because without the first deal, the second one can't happen, right?
Hmm.
So and so on. So how did you find that? How did you or JD find the deal?
Yeah, it came from a broker relationship that JD had
Okay.
where he knew that we were getting into real estate, doing our own thing, and it was a right opportunity for us. So he brought this deal and said, "Hey, you guys need to buy it. You're gonna need to raise this much money. I'll help you out the best as I can, but you guys need to buy this deal." So we did. We put it
Hmm.
under contract and bought the deal.
So
Uh,
again, connections, right? The deal make came from a connection, right? From
Connection.
a relationship.
Everything in this is relationships, connections, partnerships. Especially when you're doing larger deals, like multi-million-dollar deals, there's so much room for everyone to have a piece that makes sense that you
Hmm.
don't need to do it all yourself.
Yeah. And so you had to raise capital for that first deal?
We did. Yep.
You did.
Mm.
So were you more involved on the capital raising, or was that JD because of all of his connections and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, with his connections, especially with the accounting firm, lots of really good relationships with clients who've been working with him for years. He'd saved him a lot of money. It
Yeah.
was a pretty easy conversation, I would imagine, to
Yeah, I can
put
see how
together
that
that money
worked.
for that deal. And then especially after that deal performed really well, those investors stick with you when you take care of them.
For sure. So right now, man, is your focus where's your focus? Is it like on operating, finding deals, raising capital, or like what does your day-to-day look like right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a lot of different things since I dropped out of school and figured out I have a lot more time and I don't have to do homework or anything. I really do everything that JD does, where we have a sphere of network and services that we help people with. So, like the accounting firm's a good example. Pretty much everybody in the United States is going to have to file a tax return, and most of the time when we're talking to someone, they think it could be improved on what they're doing. They think that their relationship with their accountant can be improved most of the time, not every time. So, if we can get you in and save you a bunch of money on tax, that's a great opportunity to have a conversation for partnering on some real estate deals, or that's also a good way to get deal flow. We're working with you every day throughout the year on your taxes, your bookkeeping, whatever. We're going to build a good relationship. We're going to get to know what you're doing. There's going to be a lot of trust there. So we get a lot of deal flow from that. And I'm kind of the guy that's going to be underwriting the deals, looking at them, talking with the brokers, putting property management in place. And then I'm more of like the asset management for our portfolio now. So I put in place
Mm-hmm.
all of our property management and, um, handling those things. Still, some of our contractors that I prefer to work with all manage the renovations that we do there. So I do a lot of different stuff, whether it's, working with clients, doing some sort of consultation calls, connecting people with the right members on our team. And I'm also doing the deals, looking at deals, talking with brokers. We've done some direct to seller. So I'm talking directly with the seller. We've gotten a seller finance deal out of it. I'm doing a lot of different pieces, but I would say it's more focused on real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on the operation side, so do you think like operating is like your favorite part, or are you thinking later on to just focus on a specific thing, like I don't know, capital racing or or operating or whatever?
I like putting the deal together. Is probably my best part, and finding the deals. The operating piece is really unique, and that's where the money is made, especially in the multifamily. I was having a conversation with another guy just the other day, how every dollar really matters on the multifamily because it's all valued based on the income.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, really, it's valued based on the net operating income, which is income minus expenses. So, if you can decrease expenses and increase the income, every dollar in each direction matters
Was
significantly
that
to the.
Carlos Salguero who told you that?
No, it wasn't, but I've met Carlos as well. I was
Yeah.
talking to a guy,
C-
Chris Luna, in San
uh,
Diego.
okay, got it. Yeah, because like we so Carlos Salguero said every dollar saved on the expenses is a dollar of pure profit, something like that. So
Exactly.
yeah.
So, and you can kind of do the math, like say, well, I'll pull up the calculator here. So $1 saved, let's say $1 of pure profit, and say you're in a market where it's a 5 cap. Every single dollar is $20 worth of value. So say
Mm,
one contractor is going to be $5,000, one's going to be $6,000. That's really a $20,000 difference in the value of the property. So
yeah.
every little thing's going to matter. The timing of things. I was on a call a couple weeks ago with a guy named Ken G, and
Mm-hmm.
he's a big operator out of Florida, and he was saying like even the timing of your leases, he'll have the leases end in the middle of the month, so you can have those vacancies filled before you're reporting your rent rolls to the banks for loans or whatever. And having one vacancy filled versus just having one vacancy that's empty on the rent roll matters a lot, especially when you got like a 1100, 1200, 13, $1,400 rent. That's a lot of money on the NOI that's missing.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah,
Yeah.
so the money is made on the operation side, right? Or on the
Yeah.
when you are adding value to the property and all of that. So is that your favorite part, or are you more on the like the legal side and the underwriting and all of that?
I don't know if it's my favorite part, but it's the
Mhm.
part that is probably the most important, and it
Yeah.
is one of my biggest roles. But I think my favorite part is probably putting together the deals. Like I did bought a 10 unit deal a couple months ago, completely
Hmm.
seller 100% seller financed, no down payment, no interest. We're paying principal only for 5 years to this guy, and then we'll do a refinance and pay him out. And yeah, that part is the most fun. So then, like,
So
we've
was
got
that like your Instagram post?
yeah, that was an Instagram post. You probably saw
Yeah.
that. So no credit check, no money out of pocket. We paid a couple $1,000s in closing costs, but no big down payment. We didn't have to, take personal financials to the bank, anything like that. We just went to the closing table and did it.
Mm.
So that part is really, really fun to me, and there's a lot more opportunity for that right now, I think. But what I was going to say is, the operations piece has kind of been set up over the last 3 years. We've been doing it. So when we buy a property, I can just send the info to our property managers. Like I've got the contractors. Like it's a lot easier mentally for me to
Yeah.
just do it. And it's
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
important piece. And, reviewing the numbers and making sure everything's going well is super important. But the fun part to me is doing the deals.
Mm. So talking about doing the deals, man, can you tell me the story behind that 10 unit deal that you just went through?
Yeah.
It sounds like an amazing deal, so I want to hear more about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So how we came across this deal, an important piece to know is another thing, relationships. So one of my partners on the deal, Landon, he owned a wholesaling company, and he brought me a duplex, which was actually less than a half a mile from our first deal, the 48 unit. So he knew I liked that area. He brought me that duplex, and I bought it for $195,000, which I later sold for 289,000 without touching it, which is also an awesome deal.
Yeah.
But he helped me buy that duplex, and we were just talking to the seller, and he really helped me, stay in touch and negotiate with this seller as well. But we
Okay.
asked him the magic question, do you have any more properties you want to sell? And he said,
Key
well,
question to ask, which nobody does, right?
yeah. So he said, well, I got 10 more rentals, but I'm not ready to sell them yet. 3 to 5 more years. He had just sold a few. He didn't want to pay all the capital gains tax in a lump sum, and he just wanted to hold on to the cash flow for a little bit longer. So we just presented the idea, well, what if we gave you the rest of the money in 5 years, but you let us take over everything, take over all the expenses, fix up the property, make it look how we want, so we can bring good financials to the bank in 5 years and get you that price, but you'll make the same amount of money along the way. So
So
I
that's
kind of
all he
did,
wanted, right? The cash flow, and you listened.
yeah. So kind of did the math, like based on the income of the property and subtracting the expenses, taxes, lawn care, everything. He's probably putting about 4,000 a month in his pocket. So I
Uh-huh.
said, we'll give you $4,000 a month for the property, and then in 5 years we'll give you the rest of the. He wanted $1 million, so in 5 years we'll give you the rest of the million. He said, sure. So we sat down with an attorney. He had some questions, of course, so the attorney answered it, showed him how he'd be protected and all the paperwork. Like a week later, we closed it.
Yeah, that's cool. And so what did you get out of what did you get out of this deal, man?
10 units.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
10 units under management.
Yeah.
But can you explain a little bit more clearly how you're profiting from everyone? Because the one of the key things here, man, is
Mm,
that you listen, right? Like this guy, the
mm,
only thing that he cared about is not it wasn't owning 10 units, it
yep.
was getting the cash flow, right? So you offered to give him the cash flow, and and then and yeah, can you tell me, man, a little bit more
Yes.
clearly on like
Yeah.
how
So
go ahead.
I'll explain. Yeah. So he's gonna get everything he wanted financially out of the deal,
Yeah.
and what it's gonna allow for us is the rent is covering the expenses decently. Like there's a little bit of cash flow, but not anything worth taking a distribution for. But what we're gonna do over the next 5 years is increase the value of the property. We're gonna be able to increase the rents when people move out, renovate the units, make them nicer, and also the way we structured the deal is we're paying him principal only payments. So every month that loan that we owe him is going down. So in
Mm,
5 years, I think if I did the math right, we'll pay down like 240,000.
And then
So
you
we're
just pay
only
him the rest.
right. So we're only gonna owe 760, and now we've also hopefully increased the value of the property. Even if we
From
don't,
1 million to
even if we
1.5
don't,
or
it'll
whatever.
still be a good deal. But yeah, so say we take it from 1 million to 1.3, 1.4, we've also paid down 240. That's a pretty good spread on the equity. So if we sell
So
or refinance, it'll be a nice value add piece.
yeah, so you're gonna make most of your money when you get out the deal in 5 years, right?
Yep.
What about right now? Are you also making any cash flow from it?
I mean, there's about $1,000 left over in the bank account every month, but uh, there's not any plan to touch that. This deal wasn't really expected to cash flow anytime soon. We only bought it 3 months ago. So the fact
Nice.
that it's covering all of our payments is amazing, but that's the only thing we really expected. Um, now, if we can get the rent, so it's bringing in 7,500 a month right now, and we could pretty conservatively get it to 12 or 13,000 a month, and then it'll cash flow pretty well. But
So this guy who owned these units, he didn't want anything to do with like the renovations or the operation side.
mm-mm.
Is he old or something?
He's not that old, but he'd done pretty well for himself. He just bought a house on a golf course. Was ready to play golf and go fishing every day.
Nice.
Um,
All right.
Yeah, but no,
Awesome.
I would think maybe his mid 60s. So he'd done pretty well and was going to be sitting pretty well in retirement.
So man, do you have any other interesting deals or anything that you're working on right now?
Um, there's a lot of interesting stuff. There's a,
For
a
sure.
deal in Nashville, Tennessee that's 8 townhomes that
Mm-hmm.
are they're willing to seller finance them. But one thing I've kind of learned is if the seller is the one offering seller financing is probably not a great deal.
Hmm.
But still looking at that, they're really good Airbnb opportunity. The zoning is right. One thing in a lot of these cities is that Airbnb is pretty heavily restricted, and you got to have specific zoning. So these do have the right zoning for short-term rentals. So that's one deal, and then we've got about 3 deals in the 20 to 32 unit range in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We're looking at, and then I think a 64, excuse me, 64 unit deal in Charlotte, North Carolina. That there's some potential in it, but we'll see. We're waiting to sit down and talk with the seller directly on that one.
Nice. Okay. And do you have like a niche? Because you mentioned right now short-term rentals, right? And then some couple of multifamily. So do you do a couple of different things, or are you focused on a specific type of properties that you buy in a specific area and so on?
Yeah, so far with our group, excuse me. So far with our group, everything's kind of been between the 60 or the 20 and 60 unit range.
Okay.
That's kind of been our piece because it's a little bit too big for most people to do by themselves. So there's less competition, and it's also way too small for a lot of these big hedge funds and institutions. So it's a good spot to be in if you can put the money together, is in that $2 to $10 million range of deals. Um, Now the reason we're looking at this, 8 unit deal is because I think it's just a really, really good opportunity. Not something we've had experience with, but the way the real estate market is right now, we're not doing a ton of deals. We're not doing a ton of value add right now where it's taken up all of our time and capital. So we could be a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more creative. It's not something we've fully pulled the trigger on yet, but it's just something that, as of this week is on our plate right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
And do you do class A, class B, class C? I think you do some value add. So
Yeah, mostly Class B, or maybe something that's Class C that we can bring up to Class B.
okay. All right.
Kind of, I'll kind of tell you some of my rules of thumb on what I look for in deals. An important thing is I don't really want to buy anything I wouldn't live in.
Hmm.
I mean, you can make money on pretty
For sure.
bad areas, but just personally, I don't really want to buy something where I wouldn't want to live. And then another thing is if say nationwide we're looking at deals and in the market, if we cannot at the top of the market get at least $1,000 a month in rent, it means nobody wants to live there. It's probably not a city that I would want to invest in. Maybe someone out there is making money. They probably are. I'm sure they are. But I had someone send me a deal in Arkansas, which looked like a good opportunity, but the most we could get in rent was like 750, $800, and it just kind of sounds to me like, why would you want to live somewhere like that? You know? No,
Yeah.
nothing against Arkansas. And then really another piece that is a sure deal is if there's a lot of people moving there. If a lot of people are moving there, which again, like people want to live there, there's reasons for them to live there, good jobs, good, quality of life. It's probably a good place to put your money.
Like, for example.
For example, Chattanooga, Tennessee is a big one. There's a lot of cities in Tennessee I like just because they've seen so much growth in the last 3 years, like Nashville, Knoxville, even Clarksville, Tennessee. And then most of Florida. Of course, Miami and Tampa are really hot right now, but my personal opinion is that Orlando and Jacksonville are going to pop at some point just
Mm-hmm.
because everyone that's lived in Miami and Tampa is really being priced out by a lot of people coming from out of state. So if you
Yeah.
still want to stay in Florida, you still want to stay in a city, you're probably going to end up Orlando, maybe Jacksonville because it's closer to the water, like some of these other smaller cities that are still big cities. They're just not as hot as Miami and Tampa. I think those are good opportunities. Lots of cities in Texas. So many people are moving to Texas. That's kind of what's on my radar.
Cool, man. So most people that listen to this podcast, man, are real estate investors, right? Active, some passive, and some don't know yet, right? They haven't chosen yet. Like they're just looking into. But
Yep.
either way, every single person that listens to this podcast have chosen to use real estate as their wealth creation vehicle, right? So, is there anything that you may want to tell these kinds of people that may be looking for passive investing opportunities, or active investing opportunities as well?
Yeah, I think you should probably pick something and stick with it at first. Kind of like the last 3 years, we've only done multifamily in that range of 20 to 60 units, and then find some success with it. Because what I have observed now, being in it for a few years, is a lot of people who will be looking at wholesaling, and then they'll be looking at multifamily, and then they'll look at short-term rentals, and then they'll look
Yeah.
at all these different options that make a lot of money. But then you end up spending a couple months on each one, and you don't find any success. You don't gain any traction. So really find something that you can understand, focus on, and wait for the right opportunity. Because a lot of us in real estate we understand we're in it for the long game. The real wealth is built over a long time in real estate. So you just have to be patient and wait for the right opportunity. Now, if you get to the point where you've built up a little bit of a portfolio, a little bit of a track record, you've done deals, you've got the team in place, now you can kind of look at a short-term rental opportunity and decide, like, do I want to do this? Do I not want to do it? That deal doesn't have to be a home run for you too, which is the important thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
that short-term rental deal doesn't have to change my life
Yeah, for sure.
um, because it's already happened. So, we could have a smaller piece of it. We can partner with someone that knows what they're doing, and it can still be worth our time. So, passively, it's really hard to actually get passive income in real estate. The best way to get passive income in real estate is to make a ton of money and write a check to someone else and let them send you passive income. So,
Yeah.
like a lot of times, people will put together a syndication or put together a fund and they'll raise capital. That's where you get passive income is you give them your capital and they're going to send you a check every month or every quarter, every year. And that's truly passive. You don't have to work for it. But most of the significant returns you're going to make in real estate is actually doing the deals. And that's okay because you can make a lot of money doing it. So it's totally fine. But most people are going to say it's passive, even like, the Airbnbs are pretty passive income because you can put in all these systems, but you still got to manage a little bit of it. Maybe and you can get to the point where it becomes more and more and more passive by building the proper team. But that's just that's my opinion. The
So
best passive income is write a check.
for sure, right? Yeah. So to like an experienced operator, right? Who's doing the real estate, so that you can
Hmm.
just give them the money instead of you doing real estate, right?
Hmm.
Um. So do you have a fund right now or a syndication going on?
Nothing that's open right now.
Okay.
A lot of the stuff we're doing as of right now, because it's been slower the last year or so with just with the real estate market and the interest rates and stuff, is more deal by deal, especially since we do have a track record and good relationships with investors. So these deals in Chattanooga I mentioned we're looking at, we have one investor that's planning to fund them all if we get them. So if we get our offer accepted and we need to raise the capital, he's going to put up all the money. Be more like a
Cool.
joint venture. He'll just be a partner of ours.
Nice.
But that's pretty hard to do at first. But it's just the timing of things. We got a lot of stuff going on outside of our real estate business, and you know, that's a relationship that's come from the taxes. We saved that guy a lot of money, millions and millions of dollars on taxes when he exited his company last year. So, he likes us, he trusts us. We've done business with him for years and years at this point. And he's invested in a lot of our other deals. So, he's got the money laying around. We've got a place to put it where he's going to get a good return. And since he's willing to put up all that money, he can be a partner.
Okay. Nice, man.
Yep.
So that's an incredible relationship to have. So we have a couple of minutes, man, and I do like to end my podcast with 5 questions.
Yeah.
And I want to have enough time to ask them to you. So the first one is, what is a false belief that you had and or that you see a lot of beginners, people who are just getting started in multifamily real estate investing have that is false and holds them back? Like, what do people believe, or what did you believe that was false and held you back a little bit?
Yeah. There's a couple pieces to it, but one of them is that you don't have to have your own money to do real estate.
That's a huge one, yeah.
The huge one. And then the other piece is if you don't have your own money, you're going to get a smaller piece of the deal, and that's okay. Because having 5% of a deal is better than having 0.
Mm-hmm.
So be willing to be the guy that can come into a real estate deal with no money, just willing to work hard and take less of a piece, because you're just going to build your way up there. If you truly believe this is going to work, it's going to be a good deal, and you're going to make money, eventually you're going to be the guy with the money. But if you've got no money and no experience, just getting started, it's okay to take a smaller piece of the deal. So
To
some
get the
people
experience.
to get the experience, and a small piece of a $10 million deal is probably still a significant amount of money to you if you're coming
Yeah.
in with nothing. So just be willing to put your pride aside and don't worry about the percentages and just get in.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. So if you're the guy who doesn't have the money, be willing to work hard, get a small piece of the pie so that you can get experience and eventually the money, and then you'll be the guy with the money. Pretty
Right.
cool. Sounds
Yeah.
sounds easy, man. But it takes humility, and humility,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard a lot of the times, right?
Yeah, because I think some people wouldn't be willing to take less than an equal percentage of a deal. If say you and I are putting a deal together with someone else, and my piece comes out to 15% and you guys are splitting the rest, like, most people aren't willing to take that. But if that's what's going to get the deal done, just move on to the next, take the
Yeah.
deal and find another.
Mm-hmm.
And
For sure.
as you become the person with the skills and person with the connections and the person with the money, you have more leverage.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
if you're coming in with nothing, you don't really have much leverage. So go in there and get some.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take
So you have to
any
spend some
opportunity.
time building, right? Building some
Mm-hmm.
leverage, whether that's getting money, getting skills, getting a network or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
great insights, man. Thank you. So the next question is, like, now on the flip side of the coin, what is an empowering belief, right? Like, through your experience, what is it that you believe now that you didn't before, that you think is helping you move forward in your real estate career?
It says so much bigger things are possible.
Yeah.
And that's really, a lot of that has come from exposure to people that are doing bigger things and putting
Like,
myself out there. Like, there are totally people out there that own one building that's worth $1 billion. Like,
that's crazy,
that's
man.
possible.
Yeah.
There are people that have done one deal and made millions of dollars.
That's
And it's
crazy,
like,
man.
and it is crazy. Like, you hear that and it's like, okay, it's cool, but realizing that it's actually possible and you can do it. So, like, for example, most people are probably going to try to start real estate investing with a single family or a duplex or a
Yeah.
quadplex, and maybe they're
There's
going to
no
do a
need for
house
that.
hack. Yeah, and that's great.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Or you
cool.
can find some partners and maybe you get a smaller piece of the deal, but your first deal can be 48 units. When you
Yeah.
sell that property, you're going to make a lot more money than you're going to make on a house hack. I promise that.
Yeah. Yeah,
So, and
that's
even
huge,
that,
man.
it is,
That's
and even
huge.
that. So some people think 48 units is huge for a first deal, which it
Hmm.
is compared to a lot of people, but there's so much bigger things out there. And Well, one thing that I do that JD's taught me is writing my goals down every day.
Uh-huh.
And got to the point where I was writing down that I have $100,000 a month in passive income. That's my goal. And then I met someone at a conference that showed me on his phone that he has $500,000 a month of passive income. I was like, well,
Okay.
man, now that I know that's possible, that's going to become my goal. And I guarantee there's people making way more than that. But really exposing yourself to bigger and better things and constantly investing in yourself is going to show you that there's so much abundance out there. There's
Yeah.
not a shortage of opportunity or money or finances, connections. There's no shortage of it at all. And
Yeah.
it's all out there. You can go get it. It's not a secret either.
And then the bigger things get, man, the less competition there is, right? Because most
Hmm.
people would rather, compete for like a single unit
Right.
or
Right.
right.
A single family home will go on the market and get 30 offers.
Yeah, yeah. The people that have the confidence and the self-worth and who think that they deserve like a $1 billion building, there's a very few types of those people, right? So like if you
Right.
go for those types of people, you're gonna have very little competition. So that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Do
So
you who do you personally know someone who has a $1 billion building?
I don't know that I do, but I just know it exists. There's
Yeah.
plenty of buildings in New York City that are, it would be hard for them to sell for less than $1 billion just based on the
Uh-huh.
size and location and big, huge apartment complexes. Like the world is huge. There's so many
Yeah.
things out there, like um, commercial properties in Miami, like downtown Miami. Like I don't know for a fact, but I'm very confident that there's buildings out there that cost over $1 billion by themselves.
Yeah. So talking about living in an abundant world, man.
Mm,
I've done a lot of thinking, and there's two, like the root cause for two, and I don't know if this is true, right? Like this is what I figured out, and this is the conclusion that I've come up with. But I'm gonna give it to you, and then you can decide whatever you want to do with this. Go ahead, right? So basically, man, the root cause of all limiting beliefs, there's two root causes, man, which is scarcity and feeling and not feeling good enough, which you could say it's scarcity as well. But
mm,
scarcity, man, scarcity, that's where like literally all the limiting beliefs that limit people come from scarcity. So for example, we were talking about earlier about focusing, about picking something and then just focusing on it until you make it work and not jumping from like wholesaling from to Airbnb and then multifamily, right? Not jumping from thing to thing, but like focusing on something. And the reason people don't focus, man, is because they don't think it's enough. They don't think that one thing will give them enough. Like it's not
mm-hmm,
good enough. There's scarcity. Um, so I just wanted to not breeze over the fact that yeah, we do live in an abundant world, man. Like it's so big out
mm.
there, and there's just so many opportunities for everyone that are crazy. So yeah. So the next question, man, is building relationships and networking is key to be successful in the real estate investing game, right? You're a clear example of that. So what advice, man, can you give on networking or building relationships and all of that?
Man, it's the opportunity to do it is so great. Like depending on what city you live in, most cities in America, you could look up real estate networking in my city and you could find a place to go, maybe even tonight, to go meet
Yeah.
people that are doing real estate deals where you live, just a mile down the road. And that was a huge thing to me, was meeting people that like I could go see the deal they did last week. I could go like see it, see the numbers, they'll show me everything. Like that's huge. And then social media. Say you don't live in a big city. Say you live in the middle of nowhere. I kind of grew up in the middle of nowhere. Social media is huge. You can find me or Alex on Instagram and just send us a DM, and 99% of people are going to actually see it.
Mm-hmm.
So providing value is an important thing, because when you get to this, a certain point where you're not trading your time for money, and then you realize how much money your time is worth. If that even makes sense, the way that it came out is, you can't be wasting someone's time. But what is valuable to me and valuable to a lot of people I've encountered is helping you. Like
Yeah.
if I'm helping you and then I actually see that you apply it and go make something happen, or maybe get a deal, or send a deal to me that you found, like that's totally worth it. Like there's no money attached to that at all. It's like, man, I made an impact on someone. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of people out there. Now there's a lot of people out there that are going to tell you like, I'm not going to talk to this kid. Like I'm going to block you, or, I'm not going to respond, whatever. But just keep going. There's an abundance of people out there. There's an abundance of really good people and an abundance of bad people.
Yeah.
So just keep putting yourself out there. Social media is a great tool if you need it. You could literally follow someone, send them a DM. They might see it, they might not see it. Start a conversation, hop on a phone call, and just talk. People like to talk about themselves. Ask them exactly how they did what they did, and they're gonna love it. Like I love telling people the stories and the lessons I've learned, and how we did it, just because it's kind of cool. It's cool to me what I've been able to do.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can share that with you, it's not a waste of my time. And then if you soak up that information and apply it, you can become successful too.
Yeah, for sure, man. So yeah, thanks for the insight. So get yourself out there, go to networking events. They're probably happening right now in your city. Use social
Mhm.
media, and then just be in the game of adding value to people, right? Adding value to people's lives. That's valuable to them, and when you
Mhm.
do that, it'll probably come back in some way, shape, or form. The last question, man, is knowing what you know now, right? Well, you're 22. It's not like if you're pretty old, but knowing what you know now, man, if you could go
Yeah.
back, I don't know, maybe 3 years, is there anything that you would change uh to maybe make your journey go a lot faster and have bigger success or something like that?
Mm. That's tough because I don't know how much faster it could possibly go, but of
Yeah.
course there's always room to improve. Um, I would have started documenting the journey earlier
Hmm.
because I think it's going to be cool to go back and look at it, but it's also going to be helpful for other people to see the videos from when I'm 16, reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, looking at properties on Zillow, thinking, what could I possibly do? To then owning rental properties.
Yeah.
Like that is helpful for people to see it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing to make it go quicker, I think, is just going to meet more people. You just need to be surrounded by the right people that can help you. I don't remember exactly what the specifics were, but there was just the definition of a good mentor, but it's like they have to be willing to help you, they have to be able to help you, and they have to be I can't remember what the third one was, but like there's certain things that like basically you don't need to be connecting with like a bunch of guys smoking weed at the skate park. They're probably not going to help you build a real estate empire. But if you're
Yeah.
connected with the people that have done real estate, people who are willing to help you, and just have the wherewithal to be a mentor, that's who you need to be surrounded by and who you need to be seeking out. So just having more mentors and more relationships, more connections, I think maybe could have possibly made it go quicker. But um, I do think I maybe have a pretty rare story on quickly getting into real estate.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man. And let's see. The other thing, documenting is, I think it's a huge one. I
Hmm.
have I kind of have trouble with it for some reason. I don't know, man. I haven't been able to figure it out. But for example, my daughter just turned 4 this Friday, and we threw like a huge party on Saturday,
Mm.
and I didn't take a single picture, man, of anything. That's crazy,
Yeah,
right? Like,
you're
and
in
I
the
have a
moment.
pretty yeah, yeah. Well, I enjoyed it, right? And that's like my excuse. But then at the same time, after everything ended, I was like, damn, I didn't take a single picture of anything, right? So I'm pretty bad. Other than like podcasting and putting a lot of content out there, other than that, I'm really bad at documenting like my personal journey and my personal stuff. And I don't know why. I want to figure it out. I don't know why, man. I think it's
Yeah, and you can just learn. Like I knew it was important back in the day, and I even when we did our first deal, I made maybe 3 videos. But every day for 14 months, I was working on this deal, working on the
hmm
property. And I think I made I think it was just 3 videos I made that were like a minute each.
yeah,
So there's so much I could have documented there too. But the next time is like, you just learn. You're definitely going to take pictures of your daughter's 5th birthday. You're not going to
yeah,
forget
man.
now. So you just got to keep learning and growing. And that applies to basically everything. But the content creation is super important because that's how you can scale your impact. And also, it's just going to be cool to look at later. But if you learned a lesson today, and now you can go share it to, what you might not think is a big audience yet. but down the road, maybe 1 million people hear it, maybe 10 million
Mm-hmm.
people hear it, maybe 100 million people hear it. You never know. And maybe 10 people listen to your video and it changes their lives. That's awesome. That's great. You
It
changed 10
is.
people's lives.
Yeah. So, man, we've come to the end. I've had a lot of fun doing this podcast. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. If anyone wants
Yeah.
to connect with you, maybe learn more about the taxing tips and help that you can offer them, or maybe they're interested in real estate. Maybe they want to learn more about your story, or maybe want to know what kind of deals you have going on right now. Where would be the best place for people to find you and connect with you, man?
Yeah, the best place is going to be Instagram. So it's at I'm Tim Stone, IMTIMSTONE. So Instagram's the best place for sure. Shoot me a message. There's a very good chance I'll see it unless it gets, sent to the hidden
Spam.
request folder. But I check that every now and then. That's
Okay.
the best way. I've also got a podcast called the Student of the Game podcast where interviewing a lot of just entrepreneurs, business owners. A lot of them happen to be in real estate. That's where my network is, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
specifically real estate related. And yeah, would love to help you out with anything and just the journey of building wealth. I've kind of been able to be surrounded by mentors that have really studied the process and put it together. And kind of through Croft and Frost, which is kind of like the bigger organization that JD Frost owns,
Mm-hmm.
is we're helping people build courage and create wealth. That's 25% of that is the real estate, 25% of the taxes. We call it the 4 foundations of wealth creation. You got to increase your income, number 1. Then you got to save money on tax, number 2. You got to protect your income, number 3, and then invest in yourself and others is number 4. So
Nice.
all of those pieces is what I'm helping people with all day. I just happen to be the real estate guy, but I can connect you with the right people in either one. If you want to build wealth, that is the machine we've kind of put together, and it's really begun to make sense over the last few years how all of the pieces tie in.
Awesome, man. Sounds really interesting. So we'll have your YouTube channel. We'll look for your podcast, have it in there as well as your Instagram for anyone who wants to connect with you to make it easy for them. Okay, man.
Appreciate
Um,
it.
Thank you very much, and it was a pleasure. And I'll see you later.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast. We want you to know that we love and appreciate you, and we're super grateful about being part of your journey of becoming a successful real estate entrepreneur and having it all. Please share this episode with a friend who you think will be impacted positively. Send it to someone who you know is interested in real estate and dreams of having it all and being the best they can be across all areas. And if you thought this episode was really valuable, share it on your social media as a post or a story. We have a special gift for all of those who contribute to the Modern Kings and Queens movement. So for those of you who decided to share this episode and help us spread our message, send me a message letting me know on any social media platform at Alex Ramirez, the Modern King. I have a special surprise for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.